Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 16th meeting of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. Currently in the room is myself and Alderwoman Ellie Tierney. I am going to be acting chair. Full chair will be here shortly. So first on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Due to the presence of guests, I am going to ask for a motion to amend the agenda and put ID 157-23 Wilbourn Estates update at the top of the list and put 02123 landlord-tenant relations relocation expenses at the bottom of the agenda. Do I have a motion to do that?
I will make that motion.
I will second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, everyone, welcome. So we have, but first is the approval of the minutes from 9/18/23. Do I have a motion to approve?
I will make that motion to
I will
approve the minutes.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we do have representatives from Penrose and the developers of the Wilbourn Estates community here. If you guys could please join us up at the front. The microphones hit the push button until the light flashes green. You will then read your name and address into the record. And we appreciate you joining us. So just for the public's information, there is a recent story in the Capital Gazette showcasing some issues with water leak and mold at the Penrose development. And I had reached out to our chair, my colleague Alderwoman Tierney, and to you all to see if we could get a briefing on it. And before we begin that, I'm going to hand the gavel back to our full-time chair.
All right.
That was fast.
So you'll need to introduce yourselves when he asks, when you're ready. Yeah.
Yeah, just feel free to start that off, introductions, and then we can just jump right into dialogue.
Good evening. Wow, that's loud. Patrick Stewart, Regional Vice President with Penrose.
Marsha Blunt, Vice President of Operations with Penrose.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And as the alderman had just suggested, we're only meeting because of obviously the concerns going on at Wilbourn Estates and just trying to get a better understanding of, one, how we can assist our residents, but also how can we assist the property management, because there's just seems to be some clear issues there. Do you want to maybe just give background on the property and, you know, kind of where you all feel things stand before we start with questions?
Sure. And I can start, Marsha, if you want. First of all, thanks for inviting us this evening. Appreciate your time as well. So we obviously know that there have been some concerns. There's been some news coverage around some aspects of that. So I think it's good to have the opportunity to come and answer questions directly, and we appreciate that. I don't know if you all remember, but I was very closely involved with development of this community going back to 5+ years. Saw you all at the groundbreaking. This remains a community and a redevelopment that we're extremely proud of. And the reason that we're here is because we, when we get involved in something, we stay involved and we stay true to our word, and we are there backing it, and will continue to do so. So I just wanted to note that for the record. Anything like this that impacts residents' lives is something that we take very seriously. And I would say that we feel really confident that we've gone above and beyond to address the issues that have come up. And that's, I guess that's just a couple things I wanted to cover at the outset. If it's helpful to kind of go back to, I guess, the recent history. So when we completed construction of the project, spring of 2022, the issues that were reported in the news, I think, came up, the first that we were aware of them, this past summer. And we, I want to say July, we got involved as soon as we became aware of what was going on. In the last couple months, we've really been focused on that, in working directly with residents in units that were impacted in following what we understand to be not only applicable laws within the city of Annapolis, given, in relation to concerns that have happened elsewhere in the city over the last several years. So regarding, protocols for relocation and things like that, but that's not just because it's city of Annapolis law, it's because that's how we handle these kinds of issues anytime they come up. So maybe I'll just pause there. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but Marcia, you can add anything to that you feel like, or, members of council and of the committee, feel free to ask any questions. That's why we're here, obviously.
So I wanted to mention that we do have 4 units that were red tagged and condemned by the city of Annapolis. The first one was Unit 904. It was red tagged on August 17th. The resident came to us, and then stop me if I'm giving too much information too, because I just have notes here.
Yeah, no problem.
So for Unit 904, the resident first came to us in July 17th, and indicated that she had a water intrusion. And so we had our maintenance guys go there, take a look at the unit, and we thought we had resolved the issue. She came back to us on July 13th. July 14th, she came back to us and said that the problem still wasn't resolved. So we had our maintenance guy go there again. On July 17th, we placed the resident of 904 in a hotel. And so she, so understanding, and I want to preface this first by saying, understanding that these residents, especially the ones with children, are inconvenienced. This is not something that they were looking forward to. School was going to be starting in a couple of months. And so I know that I'm a parent. So I know that any disruption from my schedule, even though my children are adults now, would have driven me crazy. So understanding that, and we understood that as well. So we offered this resident, first we offered her, after we put her in a hotel, a unit that's comparable in size at the property. She said she didn't want to move to another unit because she didn't like the street that it was on, or she didn't like the location of the unit on the property. And so we offered her a gift card. I did myself personally, even though I'm not at the property. I spoke with her. We offered her a gift card, and her response was that wasn't enough money, the gift card. It was for $150 at the time. And understanding that we were going to have to, if she stayed in that hotel for any length of time, we would have to continue to give her gift cards to support her and her children there for food and whatever incidentals that she needed because she was outside of her home. So we understood that. That is our process across states that we operate in, because if we're inconveniencing any resident, we will put them in a hotel. Everything is on us. Like, we pay for everything. We don't ask the resident to pay for anything. If we have to move you to another unit, we will pay for a mover. And I've been personally involved in some things like that has happened, maybe because somebody's water heater broke and leaked down into another unit. And so we had to get that resident who suffered the brunt of the water, we got to move them out of that unit so we can get it corrected, and we pay for all of that. And then we were constantly in contact with the residents. So that was the first unit that was red tagged, and that was red tagged on August 17th. That unit has still not been mitigated yet. Yes, sir.
My apologies, August 17th or July 17th?
August 17th is when it was red tagged.
Okay, then that was unit 904?
Yes.
Thank you.
And so it still hasn't been mitigated yet, even though others have, because this resident has been uncooperative with us for whatever reasons. And we're still in contact with her through her attorney. We also had unit 1101-201 that was red tagged on August 31st.
I'm sorry, the unit again?
I'm sorry, 1101-201.
Oh, okay.
So that was red tagged on August 31st. The resident checked into a hotel on August 31st. The unit was cleared and cleaned. It was cleared by the city of the red tag on October 5th.
So it's up to date on inspection?
Yes.
Awesome.
The resident is still in a hotel as a result of needing a new bed. So her bed was damaged. We're going to reimburse her for the bed. We've already communicated that as well. The third unit is unit 1101-101. She checked into a hotel on August 31st.
Is that the same day it was red tag?
Yes. And that unit still has not been fully mitigated yet because the resident vacated the unit and had the power turned off.
So they won't be returning to the unit?
They are returning to the unit. We've heard from her attorney. She had the, I don't know why, she had a voucher from the housing authority, and I think she was trying to move to another property but something happened, and we're not privy to all the information. So God bless you. So she's going to return to the unit. The testing is scheduled for that unit on October 17th.
Tomorrow. Because
Yes.
okay.
God bless you. Unit, the fourth unit is unit 900. It was red tagged on August 31st. The resident checked into a hotel on August 31st. The city lifted the red tag on October 10th. The resident is still in the hotel and refusing to return to the unit. She can return anytime she wants to.
You said the red tag was moved on October the 10th?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we have a reinspection of a couple of units from the city on, I think, Thursday or Friday of this week as well. Now, the remaining two, the first unit is still under red tag because we don't have communication or cooperation from the resident. So we're in contact with her
That's
attorney.
904?
Yes.
Yeah, so 904 is not complete.
Yes.
And 1101, 101 is not complete.
Yes.
Okay.
We have
Is
the
it-
power turned on in our name finally. And so
Is
we're
it not
able to get
complete, or
that.
is it that the,
It would have to go through inspection, I'm assuming. It hasn't got the inspection yet?
It hasn't gotten the inspection yet, but we had to wait for the power to get turned on in our name after the resident turned it off. And so that's why it took a little longer. But it's getting re-inspected this Thursday.
okay.
Tomorrow, October 17th.
So my question, and I've been dying to ask this because I am on your email list. And so I get all the emails about the openings, et cetera, and all of these properties that you open. And you all, I give credit where it's due. You're providing a need, affordable housing. Not many people are stepping up to do that. What's different in the Pennsylvania development or the Jersey? I don't know if you're in Jersey, but I know you're in Pennsylvania, as opposed to the Maryland development. And I don't know if it's the actual property management or the development. And I think that's where we're very confused at, and particularly because this project is like a year and a half old. And so my first thought was that, okay, there was just a small issue with the development. Maybe, pipes, stuff leak all the time, and it just was not, went through the inspection. Obviously, they had to give out use and occupancy permits, so I'm sure everything was fine. And something happened within that year. So then that makes me think the next issue is then the property management. And again, this just is with the history that we've had with the management. If a resident is submitting a request for an emergency assistance, in particular for water leaks, et cetera, what's the follow-up is 48 hours on that typically, correct?
24.
24, okay. Do you think in these four instances, the residents were contacted or followed up with an appropriate amount of time?
Absolutely. 904 definitely was the first one. But we learned that the resident from 904 and her attorney were knocking on doors for these other folks to come forward because they did not previously prior to that. And so that's just my thought process with it. But whenever someone calls about a water leak, and I'm saying I'm in operation, so I can speak from my knowledge and my experience with it. Mm-hmm. As soon as someone calls for a water leak, we're there immediately. Even if it's overnight, we're coming in. We have to be there within 2 hours when somebody calls. So we go in there, we address it as best we can, and if we need a vendor to come in, then we get a vendor to come in. But if it's something that's going to continue and we haven't been able to address it, we move them out of the unit immediately. And that's in Pennsylvania, Georgia. I'm talking about the properties the places where I'm at, Tennessee, Alabama, wherever we are. This is what we're doing. That's our process, because we understand, and we're human beings, and we're not slumlords. And so we understand nobody wants to sit in a unit that has water in it or some damage, even with our senior citizens, who I happen to love very much, our seniors. And so we take the same approach with anybody. We don't want them sitting somewhere suffering. That's not our mode of operation. We have standard operating procedures that dictate what we're supposed to do.
And so with this particular, I've been on the property. You've been on the property? I've
Yes.
probably been there about 3 times, so I'm not extremely detailed with it. I do know that they are, like, some of them have first floor units, and then they have it's like almost garden style. The second floor is a separate unit or whatever.
Yep.
In this instance, I'm looking at the numbers. Was there a issue with the entire building? Not because this is 904, 900, 1101, 201, and 101. That's upstairs, downstairs, right?
So I believe it's the upstairs and downstairs. Now, I'm not I'm older and I'm not that well versed.
No, you're fine, because I'm trying to place in my mind.
Same
Yeah.
building.
So some of the ones that are next door to each other may have experienced different things as far as
Is that
any
900 and
violations.
904? That must be 900 and 904.
So 904 is a townhouse.
Okay.
So
Oh,
it's
okay.
not, yeah,
Okay,
so
I'm
it's
trying to
not
make sense of the numbers.
It's not a duplex, it's a townhouse.
The, in 1101 is a duplex? Okay. Any questions before I can, please? Yeah.
Sure. A year later, after the ribbon cutting, you have this leak. Have you done diagnostics of this? Have you found the source of the water? And I ask that because I remember talking to, I don't know if it was you, and, lessons learned, a lot of these properties beforehand, or Newtown, had terrible drainage. The roof was designed so the water came right into the foundation. And I remember hearing, when I saw the rendering and the concept, saying, no, that's our priority. We're going to, ease the landscaping so the water stays away from the building and the roof has the downspouts and everything's all good. And then to hear this a year later, it was really troubling. I mean, you must have been upset. So is it a design issue, or is it lack of maintenance? Is it the tenant involved at all? I mean, I don't see how, but I'd really like to know if you've done a diagnostic of this problem and if it's resolved.
So we have, and we're going to continue to do that until it's resolved. I want to try to clarify one thing, is it's not, the issues that we're talking about are not about a leak per se.
Yeah, we don't know what
we're really dealing with is, it's a combination of things. It really has to do with humidity and how that builds up in units under certain conditions. And I'm going to try to describe this. Bear with me. I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but there's a little bit of background. So these units in the buildings are extremely tight from an air sealing standpoint.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing from, in terms of energy efficiency, because it results in lower utility bills for residents, right?
So they each have their own heat pump?
Correct. Each unit
I am
does.
an engineer, so I'm very familiar with this.
Well,
Yeah.
feel free to call me out when I'm describing something incorrectly. But so what happens under certain conditions is, if you get moisture into a unit, it's really difficult to get it out. The air conditioning system is supposed to do the job of removing humidity from the air. In this case, my understanding is in a couple spots we have fresh air coming into a unit. That's also by design and is actually a requirement. That can lead to humidity if other condition exists. So like, for example, you can have a resident who's not aware that the air conditioning has to run and shouldn't run below a certain temperature. You're not supposed to be, operating the air conditioner with the windows open,
Right.
things like that. I'm not saying that that's the issue across the board.
Yeah.
Basically, though, what I am saying is in a couple conditions or locations in units, bathrooms being one, dryer vents we think might be part of it, and range hoods where you can get fresh air coming back into a unit that causes moisture and condensation. And so that's the theory about what's happening. It's not so much there's a leak, it's that in, the confluence of these kinds of different factors can lead to a buildup of humidity.
Yeah, I mentioned leak because we had heard about a leak coming through the vent, or maybe that was the droplets or something. Am I
Yes, we
correct?
think that was
Yeah.
condensation.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a little bit more about the design. Is there any supplemental units on there? Is it all just heat pumps?
It's heat pumps, split systems for the most part, and then one bedrooms have these through the wall systems.
So it's a year, so you probably don't have, I don't know what your have you called back the respective contractor, who
Yes.
did the controls? That's the key thing here, is the
Yes.
controls. And
Yes.
have they done a diagnostic of
They
it?
have been really good partners. Yes,
Yeah.
there was some theory that there might have been some issues around where
The water comes.
stuff vents up through the roof. As a precaution, they went through, and they're called these PVC boots. They had their sub come back out and replace all of those, whether they had issues or not. So as far as what we can tell, there don't appear to be any construction defects or design defects. It's this combination of factors, and some of it is operational, that lead to buildup of moisture in some cases. But it's also telling that, I think, or interesting, I should say, that we got through the high humidity months of last year, 2022, spring and summer, when people were moving in and didn't encounter any of these issues. So there's something there that we're, working on continuing to investigate.
Yeah.
But, when these things came up, what we were able to do is bring dehumidifiers into each of the units.
Yeah.
We had built-in provisions within the utility closets so that there's a drain and there's a wall plug. So if things like this happen, you can come in and just plug in a dehumidifier. So that was by design. You really shouldn't need that function, but it's there just in case.
Yeah.
And then we've
If I
got,
could,
Go
just
ahead.
quickly, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no,
just
no,
because
no.
Yep.
we're on this topic. What concerns me about that, and I do think, I'm not an engineer, unlike the Alderwoman here, but it does seem like a design flaw to me. The apartment that I live in is probably 25 years older than, because this is a brand new unit. We run our AC all the time. We don't have mold growing up the wall. We don't have leaks. And so it is a concern to me that this is happening in an isolated area. And the reason I can say it's repetitive is because they just tore down Newtown 20, 2 years ago. And so it does seem repetitive. I mean, is there something in the air just in that particular ward? Who knows? I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't put anything past science, but to me, it seems like a design flaw, seriously. And I'm concerned that we'll have to keep having you back here, which is unpleasant really for us, yourselves, and the residents, really, when we have to keep having these conversations. And so who was I don't know if you mind saying, I'm assuming it may have been ServPro, the contractor that does the mold remediation, and then also the contractor that came back through and did you said the PVC pipe inspection?
PVC boots, yes.
Okay.
And Alderman Gay, if I can, you
course,
actually highlighted one of the things that I think is important to take into account. I live in a house that's like 50 years old. Same deal. If I understand, though, it leaks like a sieve around the windows, siding, no insulation, et cetera. My house isn't tight enough to cause humidity and moisture issues. I suspect your apartment might be similar in the fact that it predates a lot of this energy code and building code stuff that's come on in the last 6, 7, 8 years. Point being, you can run your air conditioning all the time. Sometimes what happens is your air conditioning isn't run in a unit, and so it's not able to do that job of removing humidity from the air. To answer your question, for remediation, I think we used ResCon is the name of the firm.
ResCon?
ResCon, yes. For construction, the general contractor is Southway Builders. Really great, reputable general contracting firm. We have a long history with them and have had, only success. Frankly, I don't remember the name of the roofing subcontractor, but happy
no
to
problem.
look back at that if that's of interest.
And the only reason I asked about that is because about the contractor, I'm interested in seeing if there is continuity and error, in particular if they're working on other projects in the city. Because I don't want to believe that any of this has to do with, ResCon or Southway Builder, because it's, again, brand spanking new. The city has touted it. The residents were proud of it, and it's unfortunate where we are now. Alderman Schandelmeyer, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Ellie.
Oh, yeah.
Alderwoman Tierney, did you finish?
The only thing I wanted to ask is if you're saying the mold is fully remediated now, and
Yes, the
what's
units have been cleared, except for the 2 units.
right, the
And we
two.
just haven't been able
Yeah.
to do any remediation in those units
So
yet.
in that discovery, is there mold in the actual heat pumps themselves? Because that can be common. I mean, not common, but that happens.
think that was a
I mean,
finding.
I don't
mold
think that was-
in the heat pumps
I don't think
themselves.
that was a finding, but I can follow up with you on that.
Yeah, that, you
yeah.
should look at that, and that's usually
I think we,
common.
in some of the information we distributed, I think recently, we can confirm this, but went
Yeah,
through
that
and
would be
did,
good to confirm.
HVAC cleaning and inspections
Yeah.
as we normally do.
I would
but-
think your contractor that would be like the first thing that he would look at.
Yeah.
But
And that's something that we do on the management and operations side as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
No, you good.
Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to ask this because it's me and I already know the answer. Does Southway Builders pay a prevailing wage?
Huh?
Do they pay prevailing wage?
Yes.
I can't speak across the board. I can say in this project they did, and in my understanding, there are certain types of funding sources that will trigger the requirement to pay prevailing wage, or what we'll call Davis-Bacon. But this is one of those projects.
They actually told me they didn't. It's interesting. But anyway.
They may have meant as maybe not as a rule across the board, but again, in this project they did.
Anyway, so with this issue, so there were 9 total units impacted by the condensation issues, correct?
Is that right?
And 4 of those 9 got red tagged?
There were 13 of them.
13, okay.
13. There were different issues, not all condensation. There were just some issues where we went and inspected the unit because we did 100% unit inspection again. And there were some units that had some things that we weren't comfortable with, so we put them in a hotel, and then they were out back to their units in 5 days.
What were those things you were uncomfortable with?
I think that it was, and forgive me because I don't have every detail on it, but I believe that there was the air conditioned air and something else going on, and maybe there's been some condensation around maybe the vents, but I'm not 100% sure, and I can follow up with you on that one.
Okay.
But they were, we moved people into a hotel like 9/27, they were back by 10/6, so not a long time out of their units at all.
An extended period. So out of these 13 units then, 4 of them were impacted by potential condensation issues. 4 of them got red tagged for microbial growth. Are we inspecting the other units, the other 9 units that are impacted by the condensation? Have they been inspected for microbial
They were
growth?
inspected by the city, and I'll give you the unit numbers if you want them. Unit 902 was a code violation. They were out of their unit from 9/25 to 10/6. The city came back in and removed the violation. And that goes for all the ones I want to mention. Unit 906, 9/26 to 10/6, they were out of their unit and the violation was cleared. 1006 was only a violation, not only a violation, but it was a violation, the city cleared it. 9/27 to 10/6, the resident was out of their unit. 1001-103, the resident was out of the unit from 9/27 to 10/6, it was a violation and it was cleared. Unit 1101-103, the resident was out of the unit 9/27 and it was cleared for by the city. And I don't have that date for some reason, but I'm assuming it's the same one, but I can follow up on that one. Unit 804 left the unit 9/27, returned 10/6, cleared by the city. And unit 1016 left 9/26, came back 10/6, cleared. And unit 1001-302, 9/27, cleared on 10/10. We're waiting for the resident to return home. She has been unresponsive to us.
Okay. So these were all inspected then by the city, potential microbial growth. They were all cleared except for the 4 condemned units, and of which 2 of those have been cleaned and remediated.
Correct.
One of the questions that I have is, what are some of the steps being taken on those remaining 78 units that aren't part of this part of the 78 units that weren't part of that 13? Have they also been just given a quick look over just to make sure there's not any issue with that?
Right, they were inspected. We had, and I don't know the number of dehumidifiers we put in the units to try to contain if any issues do arise. The dehumidifiers come on.
Okay.
I think when they get past a certain dew point, if I'm not. Am I
Yes,
with that one?
correct. So
Gotcha.
they will set it to, in this case, 55%. And so it comes on automatically if, humidity in the unit is higher than that.
Are the dehumidifiers, you mentioned they're set up in the HVAC areas, I'm sorry if I misremember, but they're set up in areas where there's like drainage systems, correct?
Yes.
Do they automatically drain into those drains, or is
Yes.
that required? Okay.
They're connected with a hose so that, yeah, exactly. You don't have to have a resident or somebody come in and empty the bucket.
And may I also mention that if there is a change in anyone's utility bill, They just have to bring us the month before, the current month, and the month after, and then we will reimburse them.
Excellent. I appreciate that automatic drain system. I once lived in a house that had no cold air intake. And so the landlord's solution was one of those high efficiency dehumidifiers. And it always filled up while we were gone, and mold still built up. So I appreciate this automatic system on that front. Dumb question, but because this happened to me personally, did you install cold air intakes? Are those all part of it? Is that a potential reason why the humidity is potentially higher in some of these areas?
So there is like I said, and not being a MEP engineer, but there is a requirement for fresh air intake into units. In this case, it comes in through the bathroom exhaust fan. And one of the running theories is that the incoming air from the outside isn't being conditioned. And so that's one thing that we're looking at. One of the early things that we did to sort of mitigate any future issues from happening, at least for the short term, was to go and adjust those bath fans manually to set them at the lowest setting so they still, remove humidity from the bathroom itself, but aren't pulling in as much outside air. So we're looking at what is the long-term permanent fix for that condition, if in fact that's what's one of the things that's contributing to it.
And in the briefing you sent to us, you mentioned you hired a consulting firm, Hillman Consulting LLC, as an industrial hygienist to clean these units. And they went through, were they hired for only the condemned units? Were they hired for the other remaining 13 just to address any issues, or?
So they've been in all of our units.
All of them, okay.
They've been in all of our units, all of the 13. They've been in all 13 of the units.
All 13.
And we've used them in other states as well.
All right. Mr. Chairman, I yield my time.
Thank you. I do have a couple of questions additionally, particularly about the residents. I get the physical structure stuff. So, and I don't want to get into too much about numbers, et cetera, but you have a lot of people that either are not, if they're implying that they're not coming back, but again, they're on a voucher. And so typically, in my experience, I represent the ward that has the most public housing. I know vouchers it can take a year to get a voucher. And if you're trying to put it in the port to transfer to Anne Arundel County or to transfer to a new home, that could take another 6 to 7 months. And particularly just to find the unit and then to get it verified with the landlord, et cetera. Mm-hmm. What happens to these families that decide, and I'm thinking about right now, just because these are the ones that still have red tags, 904 and then 1101, 101, which that's a whole different case, that the lights were turned off, et cetera. And then 904, I'm assuming she has children based off of the schooling schedule, et cetera. I mean, all of that is just a mess. How is that rectified?
As far as?
Them trying to get back onto the property, obviously you have some system worked out where you're reimbursing for damaged property. But what's the status now? Like with how many people are off of the property just due to any of these issues?
I believe it's only 3 or 4 that are still off the property. 904 has a voucher. Her attorney has told our attorney that she's identified a unit that she's trying to get to.
And I don't think this is a illegal question. Is the attorney Joseph Donahue?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and that's not nothing is wrong with me asking that question. I just would like to know who's representing. Okay.
And so our attorney speaks with Mr. Donahue frequently, and so he's indicated that she has a unit somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so she's just waiting for the HQS inspection, and then she's leaving. In the meantime, while she's making her decision, we're still paying for the hotel.
Okay, and that's 904?
Yes.
All right, so she's in the hotel. Mm-hmm. You've offered the gift cards. I mean...
And a comparable unit was the first offer that I offered to her, and she said no.
Okay, so she's got a new unit, so she's off of the property. So 904 will just be from scratch and re-rented?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you said the other one is 1101-101?
Yes, so 1101-101 has been going in and out of her unit, even though we asked them not to, because we're trying to clean them. And then she moved all of her stuff out overnight, and we found out from one of our vendors, and then she turned the utilities off.
Okay.
So she's still in the hotel that we're paying for. Something happened with the unit that she identified that she wanted to move to, and so she's back in her unit whenever we can get it cleared. But in the meantime, she's still in the hotel.
Okay. So, so realistically, only one family will be permanently removed, and by permanently, it is at this point, it appears it's her choice to move into a different unit at a completely different property.
Right, but we don't know that's going to happen yet until after the housing authority tells us that it passed the inspection for her new place. So right now, we're just considering everybody's still coming back.
Okay.
Even though they've said they have vouchers and they're going to do whatever else. So we're just trying to get the unit ready, just in case she does have to come back.
And when we were there the last time, and again, this was still very, very early in the process, I don't think they've had resident service coordinators or council at the time. It was just the initial property management. Has that changed? Do they have resident service?
So we have a resident services coordinator there. We have the position open, but that person will be leaving this week because she's moving to Baltimore, and so she wants to be closer to Baltimore, but the position will be filled.
Okay, so so vacant now, but will be filled. So who are if you know are they communicating with the property manager at this point, or?
Combatively.
Okay, but yeah, I just want to make, even combatively is good. And I understand that, you know, we would all like, you know, patience, etc. But let me tell you, I'd be pissed off if I had to leave out of my house,
Understood.
you know, because a leak, etc. And as you mentioned, especially because you have kids, the things that does to the family, and that's partly why we have rental relocation legislation that'll be up for a vote. Actually, is it on the agenda tonight to move favorably to the council?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, so it'll be moved to, but the part of the reason why we have that is because there is so much chaos, obviously, when you are moved out of your unit into the hotel, then you're trying to get transportation for the kids to and from school, you to and from school, as you mentioned, food, items, all of these things. And so I understand some people are combative, and I just hope that we're being patient with them and just providing them all the tools and resources they need to
Very
get
much
back
so.
into the place. Any other questions before I close it out?
Yeah. Now that I have an understanding of this, which is my napkin analysis, the fact that this happened after the summer, and you've gone through 2 summers. Do you tell your residents? Do you tell them a temperature to set their ACs? Because I mean, the typical. I'm not. You know, my thought is that, you know, they had their temperatures low, obviously, so the coiling pipes, you know, were lower than the due temperature of the outside, so condensation then forms because the temperature, they're lowering the temperature that much. If that's a continual thing, then the drainage pan is going to get overloaded. Water's just going to sit there and then get, you know, into the air. So I'm trying to summarize this with 2 questions. You realize that this could be a continual maintenance problem? Continual. And then number 2, are you telling them, please don't put your air conditioning, you know, don't set the temperature below 65 or something? Have you told them that?
So we have been doing that. We've had issues where our residents in a different state. So what our resident population tends to do, some of them, when this is their first home, is they'll turn the air down to 60.
Sure,
Not
yeah.
realizing that as they're turning the air down to 60, opening up a window or have their doors open while the air is running, this
Yeah.
is causing a problem. So we've tried to educate them. We put it in our newsletters and different things like
Yeah.
that, which is what we're going to do here at Wilborn if we haven't already, and I have to confirm that. But we try to educate them as much as possible and let them know that you can't turn your air down to 60. First of all, it may freeze the condensing unit at some
Right.
point as well,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
try to tell them, but sometimes
Yeah.
get a little pushback. But we're continuously trying to get them on the same page with us. We're not trying to police you. We're trying to avoid this.
Okay.
Right. It's
So-
like
go ahead.
education. I was just going to say, I mean,
Yeah.
to some degree, it's like whether we're talking about how to operate the HVAC unit or the thermostat, that can be tricky.
Yeah.
I mean, in my own house, I'm trying to figure out how to use my thermostat. There's that resident education component to it, like a resident manual, operating manual, making sure they have that information. If somebody new moves into the apartment after the previous tenant moves out, that they have that information. So we're definitely focusing on that because it works to everybody's advantage.
Did the mold spores get into the air? I mean, was it an air quality issue, or was there visible signs of mold? I mean, just,
So I'm not.
it's always good to find out the source of the mold. That's why I mentioned the units themselves, but.
So I don't
but-
know if there was anything to that degree as far as.
Okay,
severity
didn't get
with
into
that.
the air
I don't
circulation.
believe so. And then we were able to get things resolved in a pretty timely manner for the residents that have been
Yeah.
working with us.
Okay. But you'll continue this maintenance until, I don't know, I mean, you've got to,
It's a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly thing with any
Sure.
community that we manage.
Yeah.
And again, whether it's HVAC type issues or like how is a resident
Yeah.
supposed to handle
They
their
might-
trash
they might
every
have a
day,
point
right?
with the-
It's everything.
the windows on the, I mean, on the lower level, picking up maybe some of the moisture from the ground, I don't know, it's, yeah, I don't.
I
yeah.
completely agree with you that and I hope I'm wrong, but I think we're gonna be here in 8 months.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how you fix, if it's because, I obviously, and as mentioned, when I initially read everything and, we get the briefing and all, I was under the impression that that there were actual leaking pipes.
Yeah, that's, who told us that, yeah. that's what-
Within the
Yeah.
walls of the units, and so I'm thinking, okay, well, that's something that can be identified, repaired.
Yeah.
But it troubles me a little bit more considering that it's this AC heat pump system thing that's going on. I just think it'll continue to be an issue.
Well, you didn't you have a plumbing problem initially, like right after the ribbon cutting? Wasn't there a plumbing pipe? There was, I know there was. I heard there was pipes.
At
Pipes.
this unit, yeah,
I
or
frankly,
at this
There's a
property.
plumbing-
there
There's a
may be a roof issue, and I'll just be honest that like from a standards and expectations
Sorry.
standpoint,
Yeah.
nothing like that should ever happen, but
Right.
it does. Sometimes those things show
Yeah.
up in the course of
Yeah.
turning over buildings.
Yeah.
They're dealt with, and
It
this
sounded
was
like it might
via
have been like
warranty.
a punch list thing or something, but
Right.
I remember
Right.
hearing that initially.
But I do want to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and just for clarification, you all are the property management of O'Barry Court, correct too?
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Okay.
Right. So Oberry Court and formerly Newtown 20 Wilborn Estates are similar in that they both involve partnerships between Penrose and the Housing Authority of the City of Annapolis. So we're both actually co-owners of both communities, and Penrose is the management agent as well. I was just going to add, if it's okay, I do think, and it's not uncommon for this kind of situation, there's information that gets out there and kind of amplified and repeated, and I think there's some incorrect
Misinformation.
information out
Okay.
there. So I'm hoping that we're able to correct the record a little bit. But I also want to note, to your concern, Alderman Gay, we look at the fact that we're heading into the cold weather months, low humidity months. That's an opportunity to address the immediate issues, as we've said we're doing. And I'm making sure that I have the team at the table, our consultants, architect, MEP, in consultation and coordination with the management and maintenance folks to understand what the background issues are while we have a chance to do something about it during the winter,
Before
so that we
next
don't
summer.
have the problem that you're concerned about.
So with it'd be so helpful if obviously what I'll do is today is the 16th, and then so we'll do the same thing we did November the 16th. We won't come back for a full meeting, but if by then you could provide to me that the units, I think there were 13 initial units that had issues. If we could have that listed, the 13 units, the inspection date, and the date that they were put back online, that would be extremely helpful. I think the next step for us would probably be to get planning and zoning involved.
Oh, John Manasseh, just to see.
Yeah, and not to harass our staff, but to just get a better understanding of what's actually taking place in the inspection. I mean, this happened with Admiral Oaks. This happened with the Eastport properties, Bay Ridge Gardens. Pretty much all of our low-income communities are having some sort of mold issues or piping issues. I mean, it's just, and it is extremely concerning. I am really worried about the families at 904 and 1101, 101. If I could reach out to you one-on-one offline, just to maybe get the contact information for that family,
Yes.
just to see what the city can also do to provide assistance, that would be great. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll check back in 30 days because that'll allow you enough time to get 904, 1101 back, or to get them inspected and also communicate with the residents to try to figure out what's going on with the lights and all of that stuff. And then we can just touch base again. You know, I think because this is the first time at this property, I don't want to be the, like, oh, let's fine them. You know, it's not the first time with the management company though. And so we'll deal with that at another date because we don't have nuisance property management laws within our city code. And so the only thing that we really could do is look back at when was the formal complaint made, when was the inspection done, and you know, how long did the city take to respond, and then how long did the property manager take to respond. And to me, it seems like, I mean, you're saying the first incident was on July the 14th. By the 17th, they were moved out. The 17th, which is August the 17th, they were red flagged. So that's 30 days. That's a tad bit concerning, but I'm just going to chalk it up to normal at this point. And so since the 17th, it's been red tagged. What's tomorrow?
That's a,
So it'll be, yeah, so it'll be 2 months. Yeah, this week. So let's do this instead. Let's do November, the first week of November. Because if we do November the 16th, that'll be almost 5 months. So let's do the first week of November if we could do some sort of report. Let me just pull up my calendar, I'm sorry.
May I also say, so for the city wasn't called out, the resident didn't call the city, we called the city for 904. Because
Okay.
we were trying to get the resident to stay out of the unit so that we can get it repaired, and she would not stay out of the unit. So we called the city to see if they could help us keep her out of the unit.
And that's, they brought the red tag. Okay.
Correct. So they weren't notified until we notified them. The resident wasn't doing that, she just was communicating with us at that point.
do you, and we did this on Admiral Oaks, what is the mechanism you use to communicate to your, to the tenants? Do you have a newsletter or
We have a
some means?
newsletter, we
Okay.
have, what's the,
'Cause that was
I want to say
really
next door,
helpful.
but that's not
Yeah.
it. It's a mobile doorman. And we just, and also hand notices as well.
So you'd use that vehicle to kind of give them, these are the signs of, you know,
Yes,
just, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be great. So if we could do this. And I'll have Caitlin, you all obviously have our contact information, but you don't have the city manager's contact information. So Caitlin, we'll forward that at the end. But if we could do by November 1, a newsletter to the residents, please.
Could we
with-
see that? Yeah. that-
with instructions on how to properly manage and maintain an HVAC system. And additionally, it'd be helpful if you all put a section in there, hey, look, we had this issue, we apologize, you know, because there has to be some accountability, really, because I'm starting to feel that the blame is being put on the resident, and I don't want that narrative to be out there that we are saying, hey, the residents are the reason that any of this is happening. So if we could take some accountability in that'll be great. The newsletter with an update to the property, some sort of accountability within there, and then also an update to the council on those 13 units. You know, it'd be helpful with the dates, et cetera, all pretty much everything that you spelled out tonight, but we just need to close that up, like wrap
Okay,
that up.
actually, for all the units that are moved back into their
I'm sorry?
units, for all the residents that have moved back into their units, I can send you that tomorrow.
Okay, fantastic.
And could you confirm if the units were checked for mold?
Absolutely.
Okay. thanks. That's,
So I want to preface this by saying that the city inspector, when she came out, or
Oh, it
he,
was
depending
Mary?
on who it was, they were checking for mold. They were, for all of these units, because of 904. So they did, but I will confirm it, and then we'll get documentation to you, because I know that Ms. Emmerich or Ms. Roeder, the two inspectors, they were sending my regional manager documents showing that it was, that the issues were abated.
Yeah.
So we have that too, and I can forward that to you.
Okay. Anything else from anybody that they want to add to this?
no, and thank you for what you do. I mean, for housing, providing affordable housing. We don't,
It really is our pleasure, and it usually is very pleasant. Usually it's very pleasant with a few one-offs. But I want to just address what Alderman Gay said. We don't blame the residents. We do not, our team doesn't blame the residents. The only friction, I think, comes in when we're verbally abused. And so that's only the time that the friction will come in. And I understand that they are upset because you're getting put out your house for no reason of your own, and your life is just disrupted. So I 100% get that. It's just that sometimes when the property managers are communicating with me and telling me about somebody screaming and calling them names in their face and spitting on their car, that kind of upsets them as well. And so it's just like, we're trying. And so we're trying.
so hopefully we'll get it resolved before next summer.
Yep.
Any other questions? Are we good?
No, thank you so much.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Okay.
We'll touch base on the first, but we'll be talking in between them just because I, again, want to make sure that 904 and 1101, 101 are taken care of. So,
Okay.
awesome. All right. I
Great.
appreciate it very much.
You have our contact info.
Absolutely.
So-
Thank you.
All right.
Now,
Thanks
when
for the
I send
opportunity.
email
Appreciate it.
for the updates for the dates and all that, is that just the email that I got for, okay, so I'll just respond to all on that one? Okay,
And can you? Okay. Awesome. All right.
thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you again.
My Granicus is not loading.
Just switched to 02123 and ID 15723. So now we're on 021.
We'll close out ID 15723. Next item on the agenda is 02133. Landlord-tenant relations. We can pass this favorably or recommend it favorably tonight, but I've already been instructed that it's not going to pass.
Because of this hiccup?
And so, yeah, but I'm not killing it in committee. We'll have to kill it on the floor. I did talk to Law about possibly getting a fund together in lieu of the legislation, which I think is very, very possible and feasible. Clearly, we need some sort of rental relocation, something. I mean, this is like the fourth property that we've had here where they have been relocation issues, et cetera. I'm pleased that they took the next step to.
They took care of all, and the gift cards for the supplemental
I
expenses?
think to a limit. I mean, if you and your 3 kids or 4 kids are out and they offer you $150, that's a slap in the face.
Oh, no, I thought that was for, what was that? I thought it was for like extra stuff.
So they got moved to the apartment and they offered them a $150 gift card. I mean, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that doesn't
And
go
so,
very
there has to be some way that residents are able to gain assistance. The reason I wanted this though is because there is no consistency with properties. For example, you have Bay Ridge Gardens, who refuses to pay for tenants' moving costs, even though the issue is their fault. And so that needs to be addressed, and particularly because we have these affordable housing units that they just can't seem to get under wraps in regards to the maintenance. Alderman Schendelmeyer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think we need to give this an up or down vote. We have the time. If there's a specific issue that we can address from the judiciary's complaints, maybe we can address that in committee. I don't think we need to push it out quite yet. It's not going to die in committee. I know it's frustrating with the length of time, but we can talk to the judiciary, we can talk to our law office about like a specific thing. Like, is there a tweak we can make, an amendment we can make that would?
This is, and also note, this is a letter that we are receiving from that's not the Maryland District Court. That is a group of, so it's not really the district court saying, hey, we don't want to see this implemented. It's essentially a lobbyist.
A lobbyist for the judges, but
Yeah.
in that case, what is the legal complaint that would make this not pass, or is that just the politics of the ordinance?
That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's just the politics of the ordinance. I haven't received any instruction from the Office of Law, and we've had this bill for at least 3 months because it got sent back to the, it got sent back. And we had at least 2 hearings on it. I haven't had any instruction from the Office of Law as to what we can do. I mean, at this point, what is they say, you're the council, you do as you wish, and we'll make it work. And so my attitude is, let's pass the bill. It's like, it's been here for so long.
We need an attorney, because I don't know, I'm trying to understand the language here, because it says, there should be statewide consistency. Well, is there presently, and what do they mean? Hello. Sorry. They use a should here, there should be statewide consistency, not that there is presently. So is there presently is a question. And then also, what is the current uniform rent escrow code? Because that's what they're saying, is that this would apply differently in Annapolis and infringe on the current uniform rent escrow code, whatever that is, and then resulting in an inequitable application of the law. And so is this a judgment, or is this, that's your point? Is it, who wrote?
Yeah, and what's funny to me is that what they're saying is that the inequity is that the citizens in Annapolis would be treated fairly.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
How is that different than?
All right, well, in that case, I misunderstood the sticking point, Mr. Chairman. I thought it was a legal issue with the law office or with the judiciary.
No, the legal
deciding-
issue with law is that they haven't given us a written opinion on.
This opposition by the Maryland Judicial Conference,
Oh, all right, well, you know what?
Government Relations and Public Affairs.
All right, well, in that case, motion to give a favorable recommendation.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. And so, obviously, if there's anything wrong, the Office of Law can contact me ahead of our council meeting. We can get it figured out.
Yeah.
But, again, like I said, we've had this for almost 4 months.
What
Unless
does
they
he mean
give
by
us
the
something.
timeframes outlined in the bill are not realistic? Who are they to say the timeframes are not realistic?
And we actually increased the timeframes in the bill.
Yeah.
Those were amended from the original legislation. And so I just think, we do have a number of things that could be corrected as it relates to the rental relocation. And I think we just need consistency with our property management. You can't have one property saying, yes, we'll assist with relocation, make right for our wrong, and then another property saying, tough luck. Like, that's not okay.
Sounds like that's their national policy. I was impressed by that, even though the $150 gift cards, but no, that it's their national policy, no questions asked.
Yeah.
They pay and get the tenant out of there into a motel.
And so, all right, we've got that done. I think that concludes our agenda. If there's anything for the good of the order, we'll take it now, and if not, we will meet again in November. We'll have to meet early because November the 20th is Thanksgiving week.
Yeah.
So we'll probably move our meeting to November the 13th.
Forgot about all that, yeah.
All right, well, in that case, motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Awesome.
I was somewhere today and they were